Hi BookTube, it's Amy. I'm here with a bit of a book haul. I went to Black Squirrel Books this evening and picked up some of the dollar rack finds and two other really fantastic finds that I was quite pleased to see. I've been putting off filming this a bit. I meant to do it as soon as I got home, but essentially the building next door is on fire. It's an abandoned building, so I don't think anyone was hurt, but there's been a lot of noise, a lot of flashing lights, and for a while my windows were completely, covered in smoke. There was no visibility. It was just smoke and snow because we're in the middle of a big snowstorm. And so I was sort of nervously watching that burn and watching all the fire trucks and the firefighters deal with that. But it seems to be under control now. I was just looking at my window and saw a couple guys, up in the bucket with the hose dousing the building from above. And I have clear vision out the back windows now, apart from the snow and a little bit of smoke that's drifting, but it's certainly not as it was. But yeah, the books I got. So unfortunately, I water damaged the books a little bit. It was raining when I left the bookshop and I had my umbrella, but then the rain turned to snow and it was a wet snow. And I got covered in snow, my tote bag got covered in snow, and it did leak a little bit into the bag. You don't notice it with this book, not too much, sort of there, but that's where the receipt in the bag got stuck to the book, and the receipt actually ended up dyed red from the boards of this book. And this book is called The Fourth Musketeer. The orange sticker means it was $1. And I grabbed this. I might browse through it a bit. It's The Life of Alexander Dumas. I might browse through it a bit myself, but I grabbed it thinking I might take it back to my sister. She is really into Dumas, so this might be an additional little Christmas gift for her. Copyright 1928. I figured, for $1, why not grab a pretty solid and nice smelling biography of Dumas. This was also on the dollar rack. This is Poems and Prophecies of William Blake. All this damage here was on the book when I grabbed it, which is obviously why it was on the dollar rack. But it's an Everyman's Library edition. It is coming apart a little bit, but not too much. And it's still very much a structurally sound and good reading copy of the book. I haven't read too much William Blake. I read a little bit in school. But I thought, for $1, why not? It might be nice to sort of dig into some of his stuff. So yeah, we have Songs of Innocence and Experience in here, which is what I think most of us read in school. We have The Marriage of Heaven and Hell, a section called America, Europe, the first book of Urzin, the book of Ahania, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, Ahania, Milton, Jerusalem, on Homer's poetry. This is neat. It's got some excellent illustrations in here of reproductions of Blake's illustrations that he published with his poems. I recall from a class I took in university that he did all his own illustrations, and he was very much, into printing his own poetry. The Ghost of Abel, two poems from Blake's letters to Thomas Butts, The Last Judgment, The Everlasting Gospel, poems from Rossetti, Political Sketches, The Mad Song, Imitation of Spenser. Yeah, it's quite a damaged book on the outside, but the inside is perfectly fine. Then I grabbed an interesting little curiosity. This is called The Old Houses of Stratford-Upon-Avon by H.E. Forrest. And from what I gather, it's literally a book about houses at Stratford-Upon-Avon. So for instance, we have the front plate cover image, language. We have this front image, Judith Shakespeare's house restoration with 37 illustrations. In the preface here, the author is talking about the strong appeal of the wonderful old houses in Stratford. He returned year after year to study them until he came to regard them as old familiar friends. The study of old houses is a hobby of his. Old timber houses in Sheep Street, now numbered 42 and 40. I thought this was a neat find. I'll browse through it a bit and see if it's as interesting reading as it sounds. Let's see, I wonder if I can find where this was published. 1925. And then this is the book that first caught my eye when I was in the shop. Bouvard and Pecuchet by Gustave Flaubert. It's always good to find some additional Flaubert. I've only been able to find so far Madame Bovary, Sentimental Education, and Salammbô. I've read Sentimental Education and Madame Bovary, and so, it's great to come across a nice copy of another work by him because I have loved what I've read. Published by Jonathan Cape, 30 Bedford Square, London. Translated by E.W. Earp and G.W. Stonier, with an introduction by Stonier. First published 1936. So the introduction looks like a biography of Flaubert, and then we launch into the novel, and I have no clue what it's about, but part of what caught my eye here is newspaper clippings or magazine clippings. So this is a review of this particular biography. It's gold, it's gold, it says in bold in the middle of the clipping. And I think, this is just the rest of the review, which was on another page. Let's see if I can see. Okay, so this is a review from Time magazine, February 24th, 1967. That's interesting. Because this was published in 36. So I'm curious about a clipping from 37. I guess maybe it was just a reissuing of it. Oh no, these are two different things because this says 67, but at the bottom here, someone has written a date, 22/3/54. So March 22nd, 1954. So maybe these are completely irrelevant to this work. Maybe they're reprintings. I'm actually a little bit confused here, unless this person has no idea what they're talking about and that date is nothing to do with the clipping. But anyway, some clippings and the book here. Excited to dive into some more Flaubert in 2020. And there's one more here. The other week, I read The Haunted Bookshop by Christopher Morley, And I discovered after reading it that it's actually the sequel to another book called Parnassus on Wheels, also by Christopher Morley, and I came across this in the bookshop. $9 for it. It will be interesting to read the first book and a physical copy. I did intend to read it. I'd like to find that second book in a physical copy. So this was originally published in 1917, copyright 1955 at this point. This book feels relatively recent, but I'm not sure when it would have been published. This nice green underneath there. And this did unfortunately get a little bit wet on the way home, but it seems to have dried out fairly well. So this is about the same character as in The Haunted Bookshop, except instead of, owning his bookshop in New York, he is the owner of a bookshop on wheels. There's actually a cute illustration here. A horse-drawn bookshop, I guess. Good books for sale. So I'm excited to read this fun little volume. So that is my final book haul of 2020. I may pick up 1 or 2 books when I'm on vacation in the coming weeks, but the idea is that, this was my last hurrah and I won't be buying any more books for the next couple of months. It is sort of my goal to read what I have before I keep buying more and to cut back on my spending on books in 2020. So that was my little haul. I hope you're having a great evening.